Many years ago, I heard Deepak Chopra say that if there is miracle cure, a miracle cure actually says that cure is possible. And if cure is possible, and if there's a miracle there, there must be a mechanism that produces that cure. And in this next part of my conversation with Joe, we talk about how when you change your environment, you change the conditions under which your body functions and you produce physiological changes. And so he uses meditation to help people change their thoughts and their feelings and gets pretty amazing results. Listen to this next segment. Like you referred to theta waves and the benefits there. I know we've done neurofeedback research with addiction where taking them into alpha-theta states really facilitates both the healing from trauma as well as abstinence levels. But give us a sense of what you're actually doing in terms of the process that's actually causing these kinds of changes.
Okay, I'll try to keep it a little shorter then. We demystify, first of all, the word meditation. I looked it up. I said,
that's great to begin with. I really appreciate that.
Because I mean, what's happened is in tradition and culture, Stephen, is that the description of what meditation was based in the colloquialism, the language of time. Science is that language now. No ancient text. I've been at conferences where religious scholars are arguing over words. We demystify the process and we use science as that understanding. And the word meditation actually means to become familiar with. That's exactly what the symbol means. That's what the familiarization. So I thought, what does that mean? And it turns out, if you're going to change, you got to stop thinking the same way, stop doing the same things, and stop feeling the same emotions. And that unlearning process just tends to be 95% of who we are. Hardwired beliefs and perceptions and attitudes, unconscious habits and behaviors, and automatic emotional responses. So the first step to change is becoming so conscious of those thoughts, so conscious of those behaviors, so conscious of those emotions that we don't go unconscious any longer. That unlearning process, the unscrambling and disassociating from that personality takes an enormous amount of energy. And it takes an enormous amount of awareness. So if you can sit with yourself and observe those thoughts, behaviors, and emotions, instead of saying, I can't meditate, this is too hard, I want to quit, this emotion feels bad, and you reach for your cell phone, turn on the TV, do whatever, you actually sit and are curious to see what's on the other side, and we give you a tool to practice. So think differently, act differently, feel differently, keep practicing that, you'll become familiar with that person. And that, so we teach meditation as a way to unlearn and relearn, to break the habit of the old self and reinvent a new self, prune synaptic connections, sprout new connections, deprogram, reprogram, lose your mind, create a new one, unmemorize emotions that are stored in the body, recondition the body to a new mind, to a new emotion. That's one thing. The second thing is that the environment typically controls most people's thoughts and feelings. Think about this. You watch the news, you get information from your senses through the environment. And for the most part, the environment is actually controlling the way we think and feel. And as long as we're thinking equal to everything we know in our environment, pretty much we stay the same. And everything that's known in our lives is mapped neurologically in the neocortex, right? So your parents, where you're from, where you live, who you know, all of that information is the autobiographical self is stored in the thinking neocortex. That's a repository of things we learn and experience. So for most part, then, if the environment controls the way we think and feel, then in order for us to change, we got to be greater than our environment. If you wake up every morning and you think about your problems and you feel the emotions that are associated with them, the moment you remember your problems, you're thinking the past. The moment you feel the emotion of sadness or unhappiness, now your body's in the past. Thoughts are the language of the brain, feelings are the language of the body. The thought and the feeling, the image, the emotion, stimulus, response, you condition your body into the emotion of the past. And now the body is actually believing it's living in the same past experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Okay. So then you get up every morning, you run through the same behavior and you're on autopilot now. And that automation is actually driving you into a predictable future based on what you did in the past, and you lose your free will to a set of programs. So to change then is to be greater than the body, which has been conditioned to be the mind. A habit is doing something so many times it knows how to do it. Your body knows how to do it better than your conscious mind, okay? So if the familiar past is the known and the predictable future is the known, can you get a person to drop into the sweet spot of the present moment, teach them how to be present and overcome those impulses and those emotions and give them a formula of something to do? And what we discovered is that the hormones of stress cause a lot of incoherence in the brain. The arousal causes you to try to control and predict everything in your life. And the brain starts firing out of order into high beta and it begins to compartmentalize, okay? When you're frustrated and you're impatient and you're angry, your heart beats out of order. And could we teach people then how to create more regulation by changing their emotional state? So to meditate then is to disconnect from your environment, close your eyes, play music in the background to fill the space so you forget about the environment. Teach your body how to sit and be present in the moment and get beyond those emotions and states. That to change really is to be greater than your body, your environment, and time. That's exactly what it takes to change. So meditation is a great way for you to forget about your body, forget about your environment, and forget about time. And you can teach people how to do that. So we teach people how to do that. Third thing is, can you regulate and change your brain waves? And the answer is absolutely yes. What we discovered is that when people are under the gun of the fight or flight nervous system, they're obsessive. They're over-focused. When the long-term effects causes the brain to stay in that high beta state, and our attention is shifting from one person to another problem, another thing, and the brain's firing completely out of order. So, and we narrow our focus on whatever it is that's causing the disturbance, the threat, the danger. That's important in survival because you gotta pay attention. You need those stress hormones to stay aroused. The problem is the brain gets stuck in first gear on the freeway. And so the narrowing of focus, the obsession, is causing us to move the brain further out of balance. So we thought, okay, when you're under stress and the senses are heightened, you become a materialist and you narrow your focus on everything that's physical and material. That's what we do. What if we taught people to do something else? What if we taught them to broaden their focus? And instead of a convergent focus, what would a divergent focus do? And the act of sensing, the act of feeling, the act of opening their awareness cause their brains to begin to change from beta to alpha, but not any kind of alpha. What we saw in time is that the person kept doing it and they were able to get beyond their analytical mind. The sensing of space somehow caused those different compartments of the brain that were once firing incoherently to begin to synchronize, to begin to modulate. And what syncs in the brain links in the brain. And all of a sudden we started seeing people with these more whole brain states. And now this is where it got really exciting. We worked with people then to combine that coherent brain with practicing how to feel elevated emotions to create more heart coherence. And then all of a sudden there's this kind of interaction that takes place between the heart and the brain that we started to discover that was very profound. Somehow there was this kind of relationship between the heart and the brain. The person actually moved into a light state of sleep. Like they were resting, they were so out of survival that they could actually rest into the present moment. And when they did that, their heart started opening up beautifully. We saw the very low frequency of the heart start to enhance. That's the energy that's indigenous to the heart. We saw the parasympathetic nervous system come up. Okay, the person's relaxing, but what we expected after that was, we thought that was it. When we saw the person move into that state where their body was in theta and their brain was in theta and their body was resting asleep, we started to see the sympathetic nervous system actually start climbing, and that was the arousal that began to produce those gamma states. And so when the person moved 10 standard deviations outside of normal in theta, we saw that consistently in a real-time scan. We could predict just about every time the person was going to go in the gamma, and that arousal was going to feel really good. So good that the whole entire autonomic nervous system is regulating at such high levels that the person is feeling connected. They're feeling profoundly moved. It's inevitable. Something amazing is happening. So we teach people how to do that. And so the idea is 7 days, immerse yourself in the knowledge and the information. Learn the information so well that you can turn to someone and teach it back to them. Understand the what and the why. Assign meaning to the task. The how gets easier. give people numerous opportunities to overcome themselves, numerous opportunities to practice, numerous opportunities to connect. Mm-hmm. And is it possible you can take a collective group of people, 1,700, 1,800, 2,000, whatever our events are, and create a collective consciousness? Mm-hmm. And then have a person stand on the stage that's the 4-minute mile and say, yeah, here's my scans. I had bilateral breast cancer, metastasized to my liver. Here's the scans, no suspicious evidence, no cancer. And then the whole entire audience is becoming aware of a new possibility. And that's new consciousness. And just like a disease, an infection spreads amongst the community and creates disease. All of a sudden you see health and wellness start becoming as infectious as disease. And we started seeing dramatic changes in people's biology as a result of it.
You know, it's interesting because exactly what you're talking about. In one of our other conversations with Stephen Porges, he talks about not only self-regulate, but co-regulate. And what you're talking about is co-regulating. You have a group of people who are in a positive way co-regulating with each other.